Minister Obuljen Koržinek, thank you for your speech. Now that we got a chance to hear a Croatian perspective, it is time to move to the European one.
And we are very, very thrilled to invite to the podium Executive Vice President of the European Commission, who has a huge portfolio we mentioned earlier, and whose name we also mentioned earlier a bunch of times.
Ladies and gentlemen, Executive Vice President Henna Virkkunen.
Thank you so much, honorable ministers, dear audience. It's a great pleasure to be here today with you in this very inspiring environment in Museum of Modern Art, where really creativity and forward thinking converge. And what better setting to discuss the future we are now shaping together. During my mission here in Croatia, in Zagreb, I have already had the opportunity to meet many of you, so stakeholders and representatives of technologies, universities, research centers, of course, decision makers, authorities from the public administration. And I have had very much the impression that there's huge potential, of course, in Zagreb and Croatia, that you have so strong research and scientific basis here, very strong industry, and so much potential in our very promising startups and scale-ups here. And when I came into my role as the Executive Vice President of the European Commission, one of my main tasks was to secure Europe's technological sovereignty. And today's conference here is titled Winning the Global Race, Why Choosing Europe Matters. And this captures the essence of our ambition. Technological sovereignty is how we will win this global race. And I think always when we are speaking about tech sovereignty, it's very important to underline that this is not about protectionism or isolation or about closing our doors. Our European way to technological sovereignty requires us to remain grounded in openness, partnership, and fair competition. We will not succeed in our mandate without our trusted partners in the world. Securing our access to critical supply chains also requires us to look beyond European soil and also pursue meaningful and beneficial cooperation with our reliable and trusted partners. So technological sovereignty for us, it means being able to choose. Europe wants to be in the position to make our own choices, so we want to build up our own capacity. We want to avoid dependencies on single dominant suppliers, especially from single third countries who can weaponize these strategic dependencies at any point. So tech sovereignty is about building our own capacities in critical sectors and at the same time working very closely with our trusted partners. Dear audience, as innovation shapes the future, Europe must be at the forefront of it. As the Draghi report showed already 2 years ago, we are still very dependent on non-EU providers for over 80% of our digital products, services, and infrastructure. And as we have seen, dependency is not a crisis until it becomes one. And this is why, on the beginning of June, we developed a change of paradigm. So we unveiled the tech sovereignty package. And this mandate-defining package is a crucial step to position now ourselves for the future of digital technologies. We know that Europe is having everything what is needed to shift our posture. So we have our talents, we have our industrial base, we have also our internal market, and we have very much savings and capital ready to be channeled to our productive investments. So we have huge strengths in the European Union. But the time to act is now. This tech sovereignty package that we presented in June has 3 fundamental objectives. First, to transform our economy by winning the battle of adoption of new technologies and AI. Also to reinforce the resilience of our supply chains, both by increasing our own capacities and technological independence. And third, to promote the European way for tech sovereignty. And this will be achieved through 4 crucial elements in our tech sovereignty package, like it was mentioned already here earlier. So we have the CHIPS Act 2.0, we have the Cloud and AI Development Act, also an EU open source strategy, and as a 4th pillar, we have strategic roadmap for digitalization and AI in energy, because we know that energy is needed for AI, but in the same time, when we are using AI, we can optimize very much how we are using energy. So let's start with the chips, which is very essential component of all our digital products nowadays. And actually, now when we look at the global trade, chips is the 3rd most traded commodity in the world. So after cars and oil, chips is number 3 now globally. We have made already great progress with the current CHIPS Act, but in the same time we see that landscape is shifting and now technology has been developing very fast. And we need to be now ready to take our share also the AI-related chips market, because now it's already estimated that AI-related components, they will make up over 70% of the total semiconductor market so soon as 2030. So in 5 years' time, 70% of the chips market will be about AI chips. And that's why it's important that we are now building our capacity in this sector. So the CHIPS Act 2.0 aims to now stimulate the demand for European semiconductors by supporting a dynamic chip design ecosystem and developing also lead markets that link chips manufacturers with sectors such as automotive, AI, and defense. And at the same time, it will also enhance Europe's competitiveness by improving investment conditions. This act will further reinforce supply-side capabilities across the entire semiconductor value chain. Another very important pillar of our tech sovereignty package is our Cloud and AI Development Act. Because for Europe to become an AI continent, we need to ensure the infrastructure to meet growing demand we have. Our shared objective is very clear here, creating the conditions for a competitive, innovative and trusted European ecosystem for cloud and AI, strengthening Europe's resilience while remaining open and globally connected. And first, this Cloud and AI Development Act drives research and innovation efforts in key technologies through the Cloud and AI leadership initiatives, and those initiatives spell out consolidated vision for cutting-edge cloud and AI technologies. This act also introduces a single EU-wide sovereignty framework to assess cloud sovereignty based on 4 assurance levels. And this will now allow our cloud providers to demonstrate their level of sovereignty against clear criteria, including also infrastructure location and software supply chain control. Because we think that in the most sensitive cases, it's very important that Europeans are controlling the cloud. The Act also addresses the urgent and growing data center capacity gap to keep pace with the growing demands for AI. So our goal is to at least triple the EU's data center capacity within the next 5 to 7 years. But when we are making these investments, of course, it's important that we are doing it in the most sustainable manner. And we are always looking at the best and most energy efficient technologies when we are investing to data centers. And finally, the Cloud and AI Development Act also tackles risks stemming from Europe's over-reliance on third countries for cloud services. And the third important pillar on our tech sovereignty package is open source. Because in Europe, we have huge potential in open source contributors and companies. And I already witnessed that also in Zagreb, because I have had already opportunity to meet many open source contributors here. In the same time, when we have this strength in Europe, every year we spend more than 260 billion euros on non-European digital products and services. But by building the open source strategy now on our strong ecosystem, which has more than 3 million contributors, with the aim to help develop and adopt sovereign EU alternatives, we can also support further our ecosystem and the use of open source by public administrations And we can also strengthen open standards and international outreach. So we see that we have huge potential in our open source solutions, especially to boost our own homegrown technologies via open source solutions. And now we have to use this more strategically to boost our competitiveness and resilience. And finally, about the financing, because all the initiatives I have just presented will require, of course, massive investments to become a reality. However, our global competitors, now we see that they are pouring massive amounts of cash into this sector. And Europe is facing a very critical investment gap. I already said that we have a lot of capital in the European Union, but now we have to be able really to channel this to investments. Because just the initiatives in the package, they entail investment needs estimated up to 450 million euros in next 10 years. And this cannot be covered by public finances alone. We know that often in Europe we are good in public financing, but now we have to really able to encourage also the private investors to come with. So to win the global race, we urgently need this private capital to step up and fund our largest, most strategic projects, and we need also public money to be better used in order to crowd in private investments. And this calls for moving beyond the traditional funding model based on public grants in favor of risk capital model that rewards also the whole investment journey. So everything what we can do now to accelerate our capital markets union and savings and investment union initiatives is super important for our tech competitiveness. But also for this reason, the Commission also launched an ongoing dialogue now with our member states and with the European Investment Bank and other key stakeholders to set up also a new special European equity capacity. So our objective is very clear: to build a European equity capacity at scale to ensure that our best tech companies, that they get now the funding they need to compete and win on the global stage. So it should be easier to scale up the businesses in Europe, but also globally. And here we have to really now channel our financial strength. In conclusion, by making sure our AI gigafactories have the capital they need, by enabling also that our factories to operate on European industrial software, and by reducing also dependencies that could place our democracies at risks. So we are delivering on the mandate entrusted to us. Our mandate is and will be technological sovereignty. Because in the global race for technological leadership, choosing Europe is not just an option, it is the very strategic imperative of our time. So I'm very much looking forward to continue this very important work together with you.